you almost have this like out of body experience when you're in another country. It feels like, because when you're home, you're, around the same community, the same people, the same routine, the same everything. You don't even know what you would be like. What would your reactions be like? How would you be like with people that are completely different? How would you react? How would you present yourself? How would you communicate? How would you find a way out of certain situations? So there's so much, like, all your senses are on alert. And I think everybody should travel, like, no matter, whether it's glamorous or not glamorous. It's the only time you're truly finding yourself. And I think that probably was like the best thing about it.
Elena, It is awesome to chat with you. I have just been on your podcast, which was such a joy. So thank you for having me there. But I'm so happy to have you on my show. Give the audience just a little snippet about who you are today.
Sure. So today I wear a couple of different hats. So I lead on talent acquisition and development in a small consulting firm where we primarily bring people to work with us with federal agencies. And then the other hat I wear is one of an entrepreneur. It's a hat I've taken on and off over the last probably like 8 years at this point, where I'm continuously involved in different projects where I'm building, creating products, services, because I always go back to like, this is actually what I want to do. I want to create and build outside the traditional corporate structure. So I do that. And then I guess a little mini hat is the podcast hat. So a content creator, podcaster. I've been running the podcast that you were recently on for over 4 years, over 220 episodes. So that's a fun part of my life. That's where I'm at today.
Wow, that's awesome. Maybe you can give me some tips because I'm 6 months in and I'm honestly loving it. I added in the guest element after I was like, oh, it would be nice to chat with some people. And now it's my favorite part by far.
Yeah. It's always so much easier to like chat with others, like to make it conversational. I try to do like my own recording. I'm just bored of my own voice sometimes.
Yes.
I'm like, here we go.
Yeah,
again.
The first thing to go will be my solo episodes if I need to scale back on anything, that's for sure. Okay, so now we like to start at the beginning, which is like the beginning of your journey, and go back to like the first job you had. Maybe, you were 14 or something, like the first time you earned money and felt that little bit of independence. What was that?
Yeah, so I was 14 when I started babysitting. And then, so I did like a little bit of babysitting jobs at 14. And then at 15 is when I felt like I had a job, which was like Subway. And I was going after school and on weekends, and I would go in and work at the Subway and make all the best sandwiches. And I always credit that job to my ability to give excellent customer service, because I think it's so important to have your first job in that kind of environment, because it makes you thankful for everything else that comes afterwards. But it also makes you realize how to deal with people at an early age. But anyway, so that was my first job, is Subway. And then I worked in like various fast food places and restaurants and bars and lounges and stuff like that, like through my waitress years and so on.
Does any story come to mind of like a specifically difficult customer? Because I remember I was a waitress in London in a 5-star restaurant and I had some really difficult people. I thought people would be forgiving, but I think when you're paying those high-end prices, me not knowing red from white wine was not okay. So, anything that comes to mind for you?
Nothing off the top of my head, but I've definitely, I've been in hospitality and like restaurant for the first like several years of my like work through my high school and my early college years. So nothing that pops up like immediately. I guess it's not really a customer, but when I was like about 18 or 19, it was my boss at the time. I worked at a healthcare spot. And I was like the front desk person, and the owner, he made me cry because I felt like he was just so demanding and so mean, and I just wasn't ready for that kind of, pressure. And he made me cry, and I quit after like 4 hours of working there or something like that. Whoa. So that's the first thing that like comes to mind. So I don't even think it was a customer. I think it was that person, like the owner of the healthcare, whatever it was. I don't know, like some kind of clinic or something, or like a practice. So that comes to mind when like a bad experience. I think that one is it, like, which says a lot, I guess. Maybe I was fortunate enough not to work with too many, awful people in this service industry.
Yeah. And what did that teach you? I'm always, because I think sometimes just bad things happen or you go through a bad time and you're like, okay, well, I dealt with that fine. You know, you said you quit after 4 hours. Like, did that teach you anything? Like, you actually needed some confidence to quit. I must
Yeah,
admit.
well, I guess, I guess it was almost, I guess I would say he didn't really give me a choice. So if you want to say maybe he fired me because I felt fired, I didn't really have a choice. So it was either like his way or the highway, what he was asking me to do. And I was like, I just felt like what he was asking me to do was just like over my bandwidth at that time. And like I was in there for 4 hours and I was like, I'm 18 years old. Like you have to teach me stuff before like you throw this. So I remember that vividly. So I guess it was, I guess I was like, no, I'm just going to leave. Like, so I guess you could say I was fired in a way now that I reflect back on it. And what it taught me, and because I remember it was always like, I felt like it was a firing versus me actually quitting, frankly speaking. And that was the only time I was fired or indirectly, I guess, from a job. In my whole career. And I've had 17 different jobs before I turned 25 years old. And then obviously a number of others afterwards. But so I cried, of course, like as anybody would, I cried. I don't know if that experience necessarily taught me something specific, but I think the collective experience of doing jobs that weren't pleasant, and meaning like cleaning bathrooms, cleaning up after people, just that. I remember I worked at a restaurant, and it was, we would rotate and would go clean bathrooms, and it was like it turned into like a little lounge at nighttime. And when you work the night shift, you're finishing at like 2 a.m. and then you have to go clean up the most disgusting bathrooms. And if that's not a humbling experience, I don't know what is. So I think what it taught me is that I looking back, I'm like, everybody should have that experience, because I think frankly speaking, a lot of people just don't understand the world, that world. And it's so important to like understand who are the people that service you, who are the people that keep the bathrooms clean, and like maybe you'll think twice about them before you throw that piece of paper or make a mess out of a bathroom or be rude to somebody. So I think I think societal wise, like across society, we could be better if we all just work service jobs. So I'm grateful I worked at those jobs early in my career.
Yeah, just so true. It is so true. I mean, I've lost friends over the way they treat wait staff. I'm like, no, I can't. I can't do that. So yeah, very, very true. All right. So, and then you mentioned college. So you had 17 jobs before you were 25. That's insane, but we won't go into all 17 of those. All right. But then you did college. What did you study? And then, and what were those years like?
So college was a whole other confusing part of my life. I didn't go into university right away. I went to a community college, which again, I think was like the smartest financial decision I could have made. Looking back at it now, or back then I felt like a loser, of course, because everybody was like, you graduating high school senior year, and everybody's like, oh, they're going to this school and this school. And I was like, and I just felt like such a loser. I was like, I'm just going to a community college. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I spent 4 years in a community college before I was able to even transfer to a 4-year institution. And that's because it took me 5 majors. I changed my major 5 times. So I remember I was doing accounting because, everybody would tell you, this is how you make money. You need to be an accountant. You need to be in finance, blah, blah. I couldn't, do math for the love of me. Or like, I didn't understand the formulas. So I failed it twice. I said, obviously not for me. And then I was like, well, I'm kind of creative. Let me try graphic design. Creativity varies. Creative doesn't mean you can do graphic design. So I learned that very quickly. I did business administration for a little bit, but I was like, I didn't feel like I was doing anything. Anyway, long story short, ended up with international, I ended up doing like multidisciplinary studies for community college. And when I transferred to the university, to the 4-year university, I then went into international studies and political science as my minor. So I kind of did that, and that was cool. I wanted to save the world, and that was my thing until I realized how, I don't know, jaded, whatever the word is, that idea was, after I started digging deeper in what it means to work in international affairs, what it means to work with the UN and all those other kind of, and nonprofit world and all of that. So that quickly passed. I liked the major, but yeah, so that quickly passed. And then I went on to do my master's in higher education administration, kind of like higher education leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Because I felt like actually one of my friends was studying that, and part of it was because I couldn't find a job, like a real job, like career job after my bachelor's. I struggled, which is ironic because now I do career development for people, a lot of it. So it's like, trust me when I tell you, it comes from experience. So I couldn't find a job after bachelor's, and I decided to just go into my master's. And a friend of mine was in that program. She's like, "This is great." And I was like, "Hey, this sounds interesting." I got to go abroad to Hong Kong, and we did this like whole study abroad thing, and that was really cool. It was aligned with my international interests and so on, and like people interests. So it kind of fit. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I graduated from in my master's. And throughout those years, I worked on campus. I worked as an advisor, as a mentor. I designed different activities and programs. I was in a lot of different groups as well, and worked as forgot what it's called, but like a graduate assistant or something like that, while I
Mm-hmm.
was doing my master's. So, and
Yeah.
of course, I was still doing my waitress jobs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. You seem like you push yourself. That's what I'm getting from this. You like to just figure it out, but you don't, how can I say, you don't follow the scripted path, right? Like changing your major so many times. Like again, that to me takes a lot of courage and also just self-awareness. So how did that go for you? I want to dig deep into like the feelings, your decision making. Like, okay, you said accounting and you couldn't do numbers, and then graphic design. And believe me, I resonated so much with that because I'm so creative, but like I cannot do graphic design. It's like literally my zone of non-genius. It's like the opposite. So I
Can't
relate
be
to
worse than mine.
that. Yeah, I really related. I was like, yeah. So just take me through like your thought process or your experience through that for maybe anyone listening who's like, oh, I'm really not enjoying what I'm doing, but I've committed, and what went through
Yeah.
your mind and
You know,
emotions and
I think about this question a lot, because I always think, I'm pretty like reflective as a person, and I think, and I've been on podcasts, of course, before, and people would ask me this question, and I think it boils down to like the only thing I can pinpoint it to, like it wasn't some conscious awareness or like this self awareness. I think it was just I didn't want to feel like a loser because I felt like a loser throughout my high school. I didn't fit in. I was picked on. I was bullied when I first, because I moved from Russia. So at
mm-hmm,
the age of 13, I moved from Russia to the US. So I mean, age 13, obviously a lot of things happening in a young woman's body, right? Like, so like all that is through the roof. A lot of life changes happening. And on top of that, like I moved to a new country. I didn't know the language very good. And then there's just like, I had this like strike of just like feeling like I don't belong, feeling like a loser, feeling like I don't know what I want, not good enough, not smart enough. And I think it was just my effort to try to prove that I am smart. And that's just because I haven't found my thing. And you know
mm-hmm,
what I mean? So like, and I've spent the majority of my 20s trying to prove somebody or myself. I don't know. Maybe I need to go talk to somebody, but I've been trying to like prove to myself that I'm not stupid, and I do belong somewhere, and I do fit in, and I have value to add. So I think going back, it was like, I didn't want to settle for any particular thing just because somebody told me to, because I was like, it didn't make me feel good. Like I'm not good at this. I'm not, listen, looking back, like could I be good at a lot of things? Sure. The mature me now, I'm like, yeah, if I probably put my head down, like I could probably get good at certain things, but I wouldn't enjoy it, and I wouldn't be great at it. Like it would do nothing for me as it wouldn't fulfill my soul. And so,
mm-hmm,
and it wouldn't make me feel good because I would just feel like I'm just trying to fake it until I make it kind of thing. So I think that's probably what it was. Like deep down, I think it's just this, need to not feel like a complete loser. You know what I mean? Because that's how I felt. Because
mm-hmm,
I didn't get good grades. I did, I barely like passed high school, struggled through college, couldn't really stay with one industry, one job, kept jumping around, so honestly, I think it just comes down to that. I just didn't want
mm-hmm,
to feel bad anymore. So I
yeah,
just kept changing until it felt good. Like something
mm-hmm,
felt good. And I was like, I feel like I can do this. Like I'm adding value somewhere. I'm important. You know what I'm saying? Like I
mm-hmm,
belong here type
mm-hmm,
thing.
mm-hmm. Yes, and we could probably get so much deeper into that because I feel like so many of us are just trying to, I don't know, prove someone wrong or prove ourselves right. there's a lot to
Mm-hmm.
unpack there. But let's move now to okay. So you did college, you eventually landed up getting your master's degree, and then yeah, tell me about your career path from there, like just to where you are
Yeah.
now? And you said you put on your entrepreneurial hats on and off.
Yeah.
But yeah, take me before that, before your actual work in Hong
Yeah.
Kong. And
Yeah. So I did I after graduating my master's, I actually finished in like a year and a half instead of 2 years. Like I just wanted to be done. I was just trying to get done with it. And I went to work for Saudi Arabian Cultural Mission. So it's part of their Saudi, like an arm of the Saudi embassy in Washington, D.C. So I ended up going to work there with their international kind of programs where I would help Saudi students who want to come study in the US, and I would do placements for them and find them university programs, and I would help them to basically come to the US and do the visa stuff for them alongside with universities and so on. And so I worked there for, I guess, gosh, I don't remember how long, like maybe a couple of years or something. And at that point, then I decided, I was like, okay, this is limiting. Because I'm not Saudi, I don't speak Arabic. It was just limiting to me, right? So I decided to then go to George Mason University, well, to go work for a university because I still had,
okay.
like, I was like, I want to use my degree. I enjoy higher education space. And that's why I went to higher education to George Mason, which is right here in Virginia. And I worked there for just about a year, but I had a really, really great time. I got to travel to all these different countries doing international recruitment. And it was so phenomenal. Like I would be gone for weeks at a time. It was like a dream job for somebody, young, single, out of college, like just sign me up. You know what I mean? Like I just had like a couple years of work experience. It was just beautiful. Got to meet a lot of awesome people, just learned a lot about myself. It was just phenomenal. So great, great experience. And then at that point, somebody that I've kind of known for many years throughout my college, him and I reconnected, and then I ended up getting married. And at that point, I moved to Dubai.
Oh.
And that's what kind of brought me to Dubai. And then I moved to Dubai, and then that's where kind of my entrepreneurial kind of journey, my like international journey has truly started. Is when I made that shift.
Okay. I want to get into that, but tell me about like your traveling. I mean, because it's not all glamorous, right? So yes, it's awesome experiences. Someone actually said to us yesterday they slept in a hotel bed that was so disgusting. They took out all their clothes from their case and like laid it on the bed and like slept on their own clothes. So
That's funny.
that might
Yeah.
be an extreme situation, but yeah, tell me more about your travels. What did you love? What did you find hard?
Yeah, so I got to travel a lot around Middle East, India, like in Middle East and India as well, and South America. So I did like 6 or 7 countries in South America as well. And you're right, it's not always glamorous. I remember specifically I was in Peru. And this was like, I think at the end of like, we started in Brazil, and then it was like, we did all the South American countries. We just kind of went around the continent, and then Peru was like the final stop, I think, before, or like Peru, then Ecuador, I think. And then we were headed home. And this was like, I was like probably 2, 3 weeks into travel at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so sick, and I was in Lima, Peru. And luckily the university put us in really nice hotels because we were there to represent the university. Obviously we were doing recruitment and stuff like that. So they're not going to put us in a crappy hotel, luckily. So we got to stay in like nice, pretty much like 4 or 5 star hotels for the majority of the travel. But of course, we're carrying a bunch of stuff and like luggage and brochures or whatnot if we didn't ship them, etc. Anyway, I was really sick in Peru in Lima, and I was in this hotel, and I remember all I could eat was French fries and drink green tea with lemon. That's all my body would take. I was so sick. I didn't have an appetite except for the French fries. I was just so sick. And I remember calling my mom, and I was like, I'm just so over this. I just want to be home, and I was just like, just complaining. I was like, who wants this life? So, I went through that, of course, but I was so sick, I think, and homesick at the same time because I've been on the road for a while, and it's exhausting. You're working all the time. It's not like you really don't get that much time off, like during your work travel. People think you do, and you really don't. Maybe you get like a day in like here and there, but you're working, and usually you're flying, and then you're catching like, red eye flights, you're catching late night flights. You're not getting much sleep, time zones. It's a mess. But that's the con side of it, of course. The most beautiful part, I think, is just like you learn a lot. Like you learn a lot when you travel, when you feel uncomfortable, when you are in another country, just sick and complaining and etc. And you know what I mean? So like, it's like, okay, I need to probably like, check myself, like humble myself a little bit. I don't need to be this privileged or, etc. So I think you learn a lot about yourself, because you only learn about yourself when you step out of your norms, right? So you don't really see yourself from that. You almost have this like out of body experience when you're in another country, it feels like. Because when you're home, you're, around the same community, the same people, the same routine, the same everything. You don't even know what you would be like. What would your reactions be like? How would you be like with people that are completely different? How would you react? How would you present yourself? How would you communicate? How would you find a way out of certain situations? So there's so much, like, all your senses are on alert. And I think everybody should travel, like, no matter, whether it's glamorous or not glamorous. It's the only time you're truly finding yourself. And I think that probably was like the best thing about it.
I just absolutely love that, how you described it. It's like seeing yourself from out of yourself, like, and you often say like, oh, I don't know if I could handle that, or I don't know what I would do in that situation. And then traveling, you actually get exposed to those things, and then you're like, oh, okay, wait, I do know how I'm going to react. I do know that I've got it in me. So yeah, it's very cool. All right.
Can I tell you another funny story actually about
Yes.
another good lesson is it makes you less naive. So, I mean, growing up in Russia for the first 13 years of my life, I was pretty like, I pay attention to things. Like, I know the reality of things. Like, we grew up pretty rough in general, right? Like, so we had a really kind of realistic upbringing in that sense. So we're not like jaded or et cetera, but I still have my level of naivety. And so I remember I forget which country we were, or maybe Colombia or somewhere, I don't remember where. And we needed the yellow fever vaccine. And I had it, but I think somebody on our like group that we traveled with didn't have it. And it was like, for like $50, you can go and just like get it right outside. Like, somebody will sell you a vaccine card right outside the airport.
Yes.
Like, they'll actually sell you like a little, like you
Yeah.
had like, it's like a yellow book or something, like a book, a vaccine book.
Yes.
And you,
Yes.
like, for $50, you could just go and you could take it. So it just teaches you that, like, listen, like, just be careful what you get yourself into, and be careful, like, that not everything is what it seems. And, and I think that's the biggest thing, is like realizing that how people act in other countries is very different. Their norms, their business cultures, their way of living, their values, their ethics are very different from yours, right?
Yeah.
And like, don't just trust that somebody's gonna be like, oh, this is legit. So like, just being mindful of those things. And it's like funny, but you run into so many of these things when you go to like certain countries, and it just makes you like, you're not naive when you go into these like specific countries. You don't go because somebody's super friendly with you. I mean, I've seen some of my more newer friends, those new to travel. If we travel them, like, you absolutely do not go follow this person for a good deal here. You absolutely do not. So it's like little realities that you learn along the way, that people are different, and what's considered okay in other countries is not considered okay in the US or elsewhere. So
Yes. Oh man, I am thinking of. I saw a reel. I'm from South Africa, so I saw a reel from South Africa of people going up, and obviously it's all fake, but kind of based in reality. It's like, how much for a driver's license? And then they're like, and then like $50. Here you go. Here's a driver's license. Do you need a COVID vaccination? Okay, that's like $100. Yes, some countries you do. There's different lines, different
yeah,
norms for sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
different norms.
brilliant. The yellow fever. Oh my gosh, yeah. I'd rather go and get the actual thing, definitely. All right, so now, yeah, and thank you. I love hearing people's travel stories, because I love traveling, and I love getting out there and just learning new things. And so, yeah, I like living through other people sometimes. I've never been to South America. I have to go. It's like on my list. I'm like, that's my place I
It's
really want to
great
get into.
continent. Yeah.
Yeah, I cannot wait. All right. So then you moved to Dubai. When did that happen? And yeah. And
Yeah.
tell us that move, because now you already have immigrated from Russia to America. Now you go to Dubai, and I've immigrated, so I know that it's tough. So yeah, just take us through like the transition and the reality of it, because I think, yeah, people think it's easier than it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think it's just hard. Although I have to say, moving to Dubai was easier than moving back from Dubai to the US.
Okay.
So that's a whole other story. But and I don't know why, but anyway, but I moved there in 2014, and at that time I was married. We're only married for a couple years and then we divorced, but it was a little bit more smooth because I was with my ex-husband, so like it was nice, but I couldn't find a job for the first year that I was living there, for various reasons. Like I didn't know how to factor in my resume the way they wanted, and like I was new to the country, I mean, everybody speaks English, so language is not a barrier. There's a lot of Americans, a lot of expats there, so that wasn't a barrier. I just didn't know how to sell myself in that market. Like that was completely new. I didn't really prepare. I was just more worried about being married and like being a new wife and all of that. So there's a couple of different things. So professionally, it took me a year to find a job. On a personal level, it was the first time me and that person were living together, right? Like
Mhm.
together in his country, right? Meeting, his parents and his family and a way of life. He was Emirati, so like culturally, there was a lot of differences. I mean, I knew a lot of those, but still, like it was just like a little bit more of a shock. So that was all. It has its ups and downs. But I think the biggest thing for me was throughout that process, even though it took me a year to find a job, I remember like I started a blog. I tried to start like an organizing business where I was like, I would go and like organize people's house because I'm like borderline OCD. Like I love to organize stuff, like color code, like sign me up. And so and I used to like try like different things, like different little business ideas. Like I forget what else I tried, but like I tried like so many different things. And I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned there is like, oh, I was like, I didn't have to do it financially. I was like, he was taking care of it. Like we were fine, but I couldn't sit still. I couldn't be like a person. It's just not my personality. And I've been working since I was 14. Even in
Mhm.
college, I was
Mhm.
studying and had two part-time jobs. And now I'm like, wait a minute, like, what am I supposed to do with all this time? So I would always come up with stuff, and I would like I said, I started blogs, and like, and before blogs were cool, and like just like doing these
Mhm.
sort of things. And now like looking back, it's makes me realize that I actually love this building and creation and doing something new and trying things, and that's what drives me, which is then became really helpful in my when I actually did start a business, the first business in 2019. I was like, oh, I just like the process of it. And I think that's what
Mhm.
a lot of people think. Like they think that business is about like making money, but it's actually you really, how they say like you have to enjoy the process. And I was like, oh, I actually do enjoy the
Mhm.
process because I was doing all sorts of things, in 2014 for a full year without anybody noticing me or getting paid. I just enjoyed that process.
Mhm.
And so I
Mhm.
think in like deep down, like I'm just like that person. And I think that's also part of the reason I've done all these different things, because I was always curious and I always felt like there's better ways to do things and there's better
Mhm.
opportunities and ways to create your own income, and there's not one way, and etc. So there's more than one ways to do what you enjoy, right, and make money off of it. And I think that was true belief for me for as long as I can remember. Anyway, so yeah, so that was so that part was hard to, and then I finally ended
Mhm.
up getting a job, and stayed in that job for 4 years, which was the
Mhm.
longest time I've held a job at that point, a little bit over 4 years, I guess. And at that point, in 2019, I ended up starting my own business and that was my first like first real startup experience. Like we were in
Mhm.
accelerator programs, we were pitching to investors, like a full on
Mhm.
entrepreneurial kind of creating, building product journey, which was
Mm.
really cool.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to ask you more about that, but I want to ask your mindset during the year that it took you to find work, because I have met, and I think we spoke about this, but so many learning and development people right now are looking for work, are struggling to find their place just because of this disruption, not because they move countries, but it's kind of the same thing. The whole environment is shifting. So yeah,
Yeah.
how was your mindset? And I've been through it, and my mindset was like rock bottom. It was not good. And it
Yeah.
was hard for me to stay motivated, to even believe in myself. Like there were definitely months when I was like, yeah, I do not believe in myself. So yeah, what was your
Yeah.
mindset like during that year?
Um, I mean, it sucked. It sucked. It felt like, it took me back to that, like, I felt especially when I was like at the university at George Mason, I felt like I was like, oh, I'm actually making a difference and I'm doing all these cool things. I'm traveling. And then we went back down to zero. Basically, when you go to a new country, nobody wants to hire you. And I'm like, I have great experience. Like at that point, if you collect all of the different kind of higher education and learning experience and running programs and recruitment, stuff like that, like I've had a lot of experience because I was doing it when I was studying at a university, even at the bachelor level. So I've had a number of years of experience. And so I kind of had the portfolio of work because I was applying for education stuff and higher education. I wasn't like applying to like something crazy, like out of my scope. I was applying to things I've had experience in, which is, I think, really frustrating even to this day to a lot of people. It's like, who are you hiring? Like, that's my, like, who are you hiring? Like, you know what I'm saying? Or like, we have, what we have to find? I'm sorry, now I'm going to go on a rant. We have to find a better way to provide people feedback. We have, if anybody is like, everybody's always coming up with recruitment, I like startups and AI. Can we come up with something where a person that reads your resume tells you exactly in some fast way that you get a message from AI or something where it tells you why I didn't choose you for that job. You know what I mean? Like, aside from legality, like, unless somebody's just like, well, I just didn't like the way this person's name sounded or some ridiculous, biased things. But really, like, I want to know when people read resumes and they don't select like, because I do recruitment now, and like I can tell you exactly why I didn't select this person. It was because of very specific things. You know what I'm saying? So like, I want to understand. This is what I want for people to like create. Is like create something where you can get feedback easily to all the resumes that you screen, right? So that people actually have a chance to improve themselves and do better the next time, instead of trying this like hundreds of resumes in hopes that somebody will actually say yes to an interview. Because I think that's ridiculous. So that was my also reaction at that time. I'm like, what are you, etc. So I did have one person who was a friend of my ex-husband's dad, and she looked at my resume and she was like, what you telling me and what your resume says is two different stories. So that's one thing I have to give her credit. Once I fixed my resume and told my full story in a way that spoke to employers, I think that's when I started getting hits and like, and then I end up getting a job. But I think it was also like, looking at how your resume is structured, what's the market you're looking at. I didn't know all of that. So I think tailoring it accordingly definitely helped me out in the way that they were able to kind of read it and like, okay, it makes sense. Because I sell myself really good when I talk to people, but I'm not great at putting things on paper. You know what I'm saying? And so, and you don't always, that's why interviews exist, right? If only you could get an interview these days.
Yes.
So it's, so anyway, yeah, I'd have to, but it sucks. It just sucks. But I think if anybody's listening to this and like struggling, I think it's not personal. Like, you shouldn't take it personally. You should not make it as if something's wrong with you, because it's not. It's just, and being in recruitment, like I do recruitment for like 30% of the time right now. And I can tell you it's broken. The system's broken. The process is broken. Every recruiter and hiring manager I talk to understands this. Yet nobody's really coming up with any solutions. Frankly speaking, I wish I would. I don't have the bandwidth. I'm working on something else. But maybe my next startup will be around how do we provide solid feedback to candidates that they can actually do something with it, instead of just sending that stupid automated email that means nothing and just crushes your soul every time you receive it. So, okay,
Yes,
rant over.
that is so true. And I can join you on that, rant, because that, to me, that feedback, that missing feedback, even if it's automatically generated from I think it's ATS, right?
Yeah.
Even if they're just like, oh, you didn't have this keyword. We were looking for this keyword and you didn't have it. Like, just something, because it's like, oh, of course I can do that. Or like, yes, I have that certificate, but I got it 20 years ago, so I didn't put it in. Like just something. I know it is so broken, and I feel people's pain. And then when you do interview and then you go through 3 stages and then you still get generic feedback back, it's like, oh, come on, people. You've got to give me more than that. Yeah. Yes. So with you on the rant. Oh, and when you said that you were organizing things, that was one of your businesses. I need you in my house.
I'll come visit. I'll do it for free. I love it.
Oh, amazing. All right. So you lost it. You spent 4 years at that company that you eventually got a job at. And then did you move back to America after that, or you stayed more?
No, at that point, I was just turning 30, divorced, officially divorced. So interesting times. I was like 30. That's a big kind of birthday, right? Divorced. At least I had a job. It didn't really make sense for me. I didn't really have anything to come back to in DC area where I was before. So I was like, well, I'm here. I got a good job. I'm happy. I'm going to stay. So I ended up staying until like 2021, 22, basically. So like for add up the years after that. And I just, yeah, and I've kind of built my career. I've had a really great time. I had a great mentor who was my boss at the place where I was at for 4 years. I give her credit to a lot of my success today because she mentored me and coached me and put me in difficult situations that helped me grow and challenged me. And she was the best mentor anybody could ask for. Like, she prepared me to run my own business more than I could have ever imagined. So I'm forever grateful for that. And then, and then in 2019, October 2019, at the end of 2019, I decided at that point with my who was a friend, and then became a business partner as well. We decided to launch our business called Bessern, and it was around like performance and well-being at work and stuff like that. And we had a pretty good run with it for about 3+ years. Didn't get the funding we wanted. Didn't really, grow the way we wanted to. Lots of lessons learned from that one for sure. Very humbling experience. And then I kind of just moved on from that. And at that point, I was already in the US.
Okay. All right.
Back in the US. This was after pandemic, after all of that. So I moved back in 2021. I guess, yeah, 2021.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So lessons learned opening up your own company, because you said you were looking for investors. So I don't know if it's the same one, but you did mention that. So just tell me about that, because there are a lot of consultants that listen to this podcast. So, solopreneurs or consulting, probably within the learning and development space or HR or something like that. And so when you say investors and startup and, all of that stuff, yeah, help us understand, and the process that takes, and, that's all of the things.
Yeah. Well, one of the things because now I'm on my second startup, and we're also about to hopefully raise, like, maybe at the end of this year, early next year. And one of the biggest things that still frustrates me to this day, and I don't have an answer, it's like a chicken and egg, is that when you go, we pitched to, like, I don't know, probably like 50+ investors at that point at different events and blah, blah. And it was like, and everybody has something to add. I guess the lesson is, not everybody who sees your pitch deck has value to add. I think you should listen to the people, but your product. And just because they're an investor doesn't mean that they know what you want to build more than you. They look at it from a very financial driven lens, which is fine. But you have to remember, like, why you started and your values. So you have to, there's a buffer. There's like a fine line between taking all the advice these people give you about what's wrong with your deck, what's wrong with your product, why you didn't do this right, or what's wrong with this financial projections or whatever it is. I think there's you don't need to take every advice. Let's just put it that way. In general, I think in life and business and career, you don't need to listen, but also, like, you have a set of experiences that brought you to where you are today. And at a certain point, you should probably just stick to your own gut feeling. And I think it takes years to build that. I think I'm just now in the last year or 2 years, honestly, at that point where I'm like, I don't need necessarily too much external input, only in specific areas, but I don't need input in areas that I've spent years and years and years and years building and understanding about myself and what I want. And so not all advices you need to take on. That's what I have to say. The chicken and egg situation I was talking about is the idea that in order for investors to even really want to care about your business, you have to have certain traction of like hundreds of thousands in revenue a lot of times. If you're going for, like, that's, even the seed funding, like, they still want. So it's like, it's like the whole idea of, like, employers, they want to hire you, but you need to have 3 years of experience, but then the salary is like an entry level. So it's like, it's like you need experience, but then if you have, I don't know, it's very confusing. So it's like you're a fresh graduate, but then they want you, it's an entry level role, but they want you to have 3 years of experience. So it's just very like chicken and egg. And same thing with investors. They want your company to generate X number of, some of them want ridiculous amount of revenue every year. Some of them, like, thousands and tens of thousands of users if you're developing something user based. it's like if I was doing that, I don't even need you anymore at that point. I will
Mm,
probably
mm, mm,
bootstrap for as long as I could at that stage. What
mhm.
I need is money now so I can actually, you know what I'm saying? Because when you're
Yeah.
starting up and we were broke, like we didn't have any money, you know what I'm saying? Like we were just
Mhm,
like bootstrapping.
mhm.
But even now we're bootstrapping everything we're doing. We don't have money like, tens of thousands to throw into a business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, so I guess that was pretty interesting. um I think it's just it really does, when they say it's like the hardest thing you do, I think it is the hardest thing you do. I think the easiest part of building anything is the beginning part. I think it gets harder when you actually start making money off of it. Because then you have to, like, I think it's like people think it's like the hardest to get your first client. I think it's harder when you actually start and then you're like, oh, because then like you have to grow. And I think
Mm,
scaling is where it's very difficult. I think it's very easy to get your first client. I think that's
mhm,
easy.
mhm,
um I think scaling, growing, making enough money to grow, or again, go back to the funding issue, to be able to present, your product in a way that people want to invest in it. I think that's the hard part. And we're diving into my second startup now. We're about a year in, and we're at that stage. And I start to feel, I'm
mhm.
like, yep, now this is hard. Like this is the hard part has started, activated. So like, because that's my day to day now, and I'm like, it's exciting, but it's hard
Mm,
as hell.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the final thing about like investors, for better or for worse, people invest into trendy and cool things. Like right now, it's
Mhm,
all about AI and stuff like that. Before, I remember, it was like a lot of fintech. Like
mhm,
everybody was spending
mhm.
money on fintech and stuff like that. So I think just be aware of the trends, and don't let that discourage you from what you actually, the difference you want to make. Because ultimately, you're building a business because you want to change something of a problem that you've seen and
Mhm.
nobody's addressing. And not only is there like a opportunity to make money, but there's an opportunity to make a difference, which in turn will make you money, right? So it's
Mhm.
all connected at the end of the day.
Yeah. 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 Very interesting. And yes, I love that. It's like by the time we're making this much money, we don't need you.
I mean, I might still need you, but then like
Yes.
then I'm not gonna have to convince you anymore. And I'm like, dang, like it's hard. Like,
Mm,
help me now. Do you know what I'm
yes.
saying? Like, not
Yeah.
not a year from now. When now, like, I don't need your help because I'm gonna have five other investors coming to talk to me. Do you know
Hmm.
what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, what a world. All right. So, and that's where you are today. So now looking back throughout all of this, share a really hard moment, low moment that you had to overcome. And that could be your business, career, personal, anything like that. And what got you through it? Like, are there
Mm.
tips or tricks or something almost tangible that people can take away?
Yeah. So luckily for this conversation, I have something that all three of, like, finances, personal life, and business and career was all impacted all in one go. So this was after the pandemic. At that point, so this was end of 2020. Let's see. At that point, of course, we ran out whatever funding we did. We didn't get funding. We got like grants and stuff like that. So we
Mhm.
survived through the pandemic. We made some revenue from clients and etc. So we kind of, we made it through that like 20, what was the whole of 2020 basically. Right. But at the end of 2020, early 2021, really things started to look really bleak business wise. Like it was like month to month. It was, like we saw like all the contracts were running out. Then it's just, so like it was, I mean, it was
Mhm.
the whole world was affected, so nobody was really investing anything anywhere. Anyway, so at that point, so that was end of 2020. The trifecta took place, if you want to call it that. Business wasn't doing great. So finances were struggling. I was at that point living off of my savings pretty much. I just ended a relationship at that point as well, of October that year. And then on top of that, all the stress, all the failure, oh my God, the massive failure of, leaving a comfortable, stable job to start a business, and now it's not going well. All of that internalized. And I've gained a bunch of weight at that time. Like I felt like I gained like 30, 40 pounds overnight, Candace. Like it was wild. Like that's what it felt like. And so I've
Mhm.
lost it since then, luckily. But, I've gained a ton of weight at that time. And my health was struggling. I'm not going to go into details of the health, but there was obvious health concerns. And my body, yeah, I was just a mess. I really, that was probably the lowest point of my life that I don't remember the lowest point I felt. Because from all sides, finances, career, like business career, relationships, like all of that, just in a period of like 2 months, everything fell apart type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that sucked. And I think the only thing that got me through, obviously family, like it's always great to be around family when things like that happen, or loved ones. But the other part is like, I knew it wasn't forever. Like I know this was just a stage, because I've gone through hard times before, not as hard as this one. This is probably the hardest time in my life, but so far at least. Well, hopefully it will be the hardest, but I think it's just knowing that it's not permanent. Like it's just temporary. And I think that's what I had to remind myself. This is temporary. And then I just needed to design a plan to get myself out of the hole. And that's it. I think that's the thing we forget, because when we're in it, we feel like this is forever. And it's not. It's a period. It's a season in your life. And this shall pass.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's helped me the most. And then it helps you just think, about next steps, because you're like, it's not temporary. So when I get out of it, what's my game plan? How do I get out of it faster? So
Yes. And that's, that perspective, because again, sometimes you in the hole, you can't see anything out of it. But
yeah,
once you're out,
and
you're like,
it's hard. Yeah.
I made it. That was great. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. I think that is very useful, just and easy. It's actually easy, just day by day. When you're in that hard time, like it will be done. Like it will get better. It absolutely will get better. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so is there any pivotal moment before we wrap up that shaped, and you've mentioned your mentor, and maybe you want to go into that a little bit more, but we have these pivotal times in our lives, in our careers, that like completely shift our trajectory, and we don't know it at the time, of course not. Is there any moment that you can share that really you were like, wow, that really shaped who I am, my path for the better, and I'm so grateful for
Yeah.
that?
Honestly, my first marriage, because that I didn't expect to leave the U.S. Like I knew I didn't want to live in the U.S. I wanted to get out and like experience other countries, but that came a little bit unexpected. Like I didn't expect for that to happen. Honestly, that wasn't in my plans. It came pretty unexpectedly in that sense. So I think that, because that got me out of America, I don't know. I think my life would have looked very different have I stayed here and continued to work at the university. I think being in Dubai, it's a very buzzing, entrepreneurial, very hustle mode culture that I felt like I really belonged at, because I'm like that. I function, I'm fast, I do everything fast, for better or for worse. Like I like to get things done. Like I need to be around a lot of good energy and people. And like, so like that was like perfect for me at that age. Like those 8 years that I've spent there was just like perfect for me, because that's what I needed. I was like, and I was, after my divorce, I was single, and I was just like full on career driven. I've made a lot of great networks. I have a lot of great relationships, made some of my best friends today I met there. So I guess getting married, and I'm thankful for my ex-husband for that, getting married, me being, moving to Dubai, and then the life that I've like, basically like every experience I've had there, I think is probably, even the bad ones at the end, because then moving to the US now again, like I'm like, that's exactly where I need to be right now. Like I feel like that's where I don't miss Dubai. People are like, do you miss Dubai? I'm like, nah, like I'm good. I'm actually like, I feel like at this stage of my life, what I'm trying to do, like this is where I need to be, and I'm closer to my family now. It's like, so there's so many things that fell into place, and I felt like, as crappy as those experiences were, and as hard as they were, divorce was hard. That was difficult. I was going through it by myself in a different country, like alone, like basically alone, right? Didn't have my family, didn't have my network, nothing. And then all the 2020 shenanigans, starting a business, all over the business world, but again, alone, I'm saying, like, you don't have any family members to fall on to, you can't live with a family member for free and like try to make you at work, like, I think all of those things are hard, but again, it's just like, if it's not hard, what's the point? Candace, like, what's the point? If it's not hard, then it's like, it's probably not worth it. Like, that's how I look at things now. It's
Yeah,
just supposed to be hard. It's
you're just
supposed to be
staying in your little
hard.
comfort zone. Yeah.
yeah, you just in your
Mhm.
comfort zone, and that
Mhm.
sucks. And like I was telling my business partner now the other day, and I said, you know why I'm doing this, like the shift well, this business is because I don't. One of the things I know I will regret among like a few other things, but one thing I would regret when I'm at my deathbed that I didn't try to create and build something like and scale something like a business, an idea
Mhm.
like that, because I feel like I feel like especially what we're doing shift well is so impactful, and like I would regret, I can't just do like a 9 to 5 and call it a day. Like I can't, it would not fulfill me one bit,
Mhm.
respectfully to everybody's different. But for me, if I look back,
Mhm.
my deathbed, what are the things I would regret not doing is not having my own business and being able to scale it and grow it and, make
Mhm.
it a household name type thing.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that's awesome. And that's living in your truth, right? So some people, I mean, I know many people who just love the corporate career and climbing the ladder.
Yeah.
I mean, so many people. And, I was one of those people until, I left and I was like, okay, got the bug. Because my parents are both entrepreneurs, had like 7 businesses. And, I was like, I want nothing to do with that. That is hard. And then I started and I was like, oh, damn it. They actually got to me.
It caught up to you. The gene caught
Yeah.
up to you.
Yeah. So, and yeah, that's awesome, living your truth. Okay. So to wrap up, we always ask one final question and then we'll get into, what your business is and how people can connect with you. But my ultimate favorite question of the show is, if you went back to your young you, however old, 14, 20, whatever it is, what would you thank yourself for doing? Because I think we give our young selves a hard time, like would we change when we were 20? But I think no,
Hmm.
we're doing good stuff. So what would you thank
Yeah.
yourself?
I guess I would thank myself for always trying new things. Like no fear. Maybe part of it was naive back then, just like, that like just let's just
Mhm,
do it.
mhm, mhm,
Let's quit this job, go to the next job. It's fine. Like just this thank myself for developing this mindset that it'll be okay. Just do this. You know what I
mhm.
mean? Just, you'll figure it out. Like
Yeah.
I looking back, I was pretty ballsy through all the changes. I was like, like, like I don't know if I'd do the same things today. You know what I'm saying? But I think twice today. But back then I was like, oh, just fine. I'd quit this one, go here, try this,
Mhm,
do this.
mhm,
So
mhm.
I guess that's what I would thank myself for.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Tell people, how they can work with you, what you do. So, I mean, I know we'll put the links in the chat. So it's not about links, but it's about what do you actually do? What are your offerings? How can people work with you?
Sure. So on kind of my own personal side, I do of course career coaching, so people can connect with me for any kind of career coaching, job search strategy, advice. LinkedIn is the best place to find me. For companies that are looking to help make their employees just more effective, at the same time help them be at their best. This is where ShiftWell comes in. We're a technology solution that helps people be at their best in a way that is scalable and affordable and accessible for all. So yeah, these are the two things, but LinkedIn is probably the best place to just find me and connect.
Yeah, that's fantastic. All right. Well, thank you. Any final words before we close down?
No, but thank you. This is so
Yeah.
great. This is so
Yeah.
great, and yeah, keep going. 6 months in, listen, every year I just love it more and more. So
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah. I get to
it's
speak
it's a
with the
really
best
great thing.
people. So there's
It's
no
a blessing.
stopping,
It's
no
it's
stopping
awesome.
me.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.